Hey there, good morning, Garden America Nation. We are back on the air. It is Facebook Live. It is Biz Talk Radio. It is digital. It is streaming. We are everywhere. We appreciate you tuning in. Hope you had a good week, and welcome to the weekend. Great show lined up. Every show's a great show. We've got the usual suspects, Tiger Palafox, John Bagnasco. I'm Brian Main. That's John over there. John, go ahead and wave. John, people say you don't look at the camera enough. I get a lot of emails during the week. We want to see John.
Really?
We want to see John engaged in the camera.
I've noticed the same thing.
That you're not engaging enough in the camera?
Right.
Well, there he is. There's John in the flesh. And we appreciate you tuning in. However you listen to us, we do want to remind you, we have a YouTube channel. Go to our YouTube channel, Garden America Radio Show. Like and subscribe. Tell your friends. Tell your family. Got to build this sucker up. Also, go to our website, gardenamerica.com. As I recall, John, the link in the newsletter will take you to our website, Garden America, and you can read about and look at the rose of the week.
You can.
Which
Speaking
I did
of
this
the rose
morning.
of the week, I brought a rose in for show and tell today.
Right there, and that's a little tiger.
It is.
Aww.
Tiger's one of my favorite people, and
Yes.
little Tiger's one of my favorite roses.
You don't have a Brian rose? All these?
No, I don't.
Doesn't that sound like you should? A Brian rose. You've got Brian
he's trying to say
Texas.
something.
You got Brian Maine. You've got hey, there's Brian's, famous Brian's.
John and Becky Hook from France came over to for lunch yesterday. They were visiting California for a while. Their daughter lives in Oregon, and their son lives in Rancho Santa Fe. And they came over, and they mentioned that they were going to be able to ship me another group of roses sometime soon when they got back. And one of the roses they're going to ship was a rose you had originally come up with a name for, and then we never used it, and someone else put it in.
What's the name?
You know, right?
That's your fault.
A Scent of a Woman.
Yes, that's your fault. Why didn't you jump on that?
Yeah. Actually, I think it's just scent, no A. Scent of a Woman.
What am I going to do with you? That's like the soil that I had years ago. Happy Medium. And that was a good name as well.
It was a good name. They did start to produce that for a while, and as soon as they did, the company went bankrupt.
I could be retired, Tiger, by now.
Oh, yeah, is that right?
I wouldn't have to come in and do this show. No, we love being here. Just kidding. A lot of people tuned in already. We do appreciate that. We've got Linda Myers back for the final time in 2021 this year with some great information. That'll be in the second segment, Tiger.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be talking fall tree and shrub planting tips.
Hey, our buddy Ed Livo says that he's editing a pomegranate video this morning.
Ooh.
Way to go, Ed. Get
That was one of my
video
favorite
camera.
books, Pomegranate Roads. Did you ever read that?
No, pomegranates I have known. That's another one.
Pomegranates or
Pomegranates. No, pomegranates.
Oh.
It's a derivative of a pomegranate when they're young.
Well played, well played. Oh.
Anyway, so John, how was your week? What's happening at Casa de let's see.
Bag-
Casa de
Yeah, you were gonna say
Bagnasco
Bandini.
Estates, right? Casa de Bandini?
Yeah.
Casa de Bagnasco Estates.
Well, first of all, I was excited because John and Becky were going to visit me, and I had a lot of tea roses that I'd gotten from them, actually 2 shipments of roses, and they were all looking spectacular. I was going to call you up and say after work you need to drive up here and look at these.
And I'd say why, and you'd say because they're spectacular.
Exactly. So
Need I say more?
No,
so
you don't need
what
to.
happened, the weather had been, we had all the rain, right?
Yeah.
We had rain and we had cool weather and the roses were just looking awesome. So they came over yesterday. On Thursday, or on Friday, the temperature went to 92 at my house.
With
Every
dry wind.
And it was 92 here, by the way.
And everything turned to potpourri.
Yep.
And then cooled down the next day when they came over, and I said, you should have been here a couple days
You know,
ago.
though, you hit it right on the money last week. Last Saturday, we asked John about the weather. Well, it's going to be cold. It's going to rain on Monday and Tuesday. And then Thursday, it's going to get hot. And I'm like, okay, joy boy. And you know what? And he was right. It got really hot. I mean, so much so, it's like, what's going on? That's got to play havoc with the plants.
Oh, the back and forth.
I mean,
for
the
sure,
back and
right?
forth, they're like, ready to go to bed. No, got to get up. It's going to be winter. It's going to be fall. No, it's going to be summer.
Drink water. Don't drink water.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I've got to water today. I was a little last week on the watering.
And it's hard sometimes to get out there and work in the yard when it's hot and dry like that too, because you're out there and you're just exhausted. It's just sucking the energy out of you. Not all of us are retired like John over here, who can wake up at 6 a.m. and start working.
6 a.m. How about 9:30? John gets up at 9:30. He goes to bed late though.
I get up at 5:30 to come do this show.
Exactly.
Well, you'd have to because it takes 45 minutes to drive down here.
By plane.
that little Cessna.
No, it's an hour. By the way, Tanya from San Jose says Happy Halloween.
Ooh.
And please don't call her Tanya.
Oh.
Tanya?
Tanya.
Tanya. Yeah, it's Tanya.
Yeah.
I might have called her Tanya. But
You did. I
because
remember
Tanya
that.
Tucker, I was in country music for a long time. So,
Tanya Tucker's a Tanya?
yeah. So
Not Tanya.
Tanya. Now, she's from San Jose?
So she says.
Well, look at the hat. What does that hat tell you?
San Jose Sharks.
Tanya, San Jose Sharks. See, I'm representing.
And could
Tanya?
you please pronounce it San Josie?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
San Jose. Do you know the way, John?
To San Jose.
I do.
Is that from Newsies?
I do. That's where the San Jose Heritage Rose Garden is. Anyway, good morning to you, Tanya. We're glad to
Tanya.
have you.
Yeah.
She has a good memory because I did call her Tanya last. That's good memory, Tanya.
I remembered that too.
And I knew when it came out, I went, toss of the dice.
Hey, it's tomato, right? Sometimes when you read a name, you don't know how they're going to pronounce it.
Carla says she's looking forward to some great advice from Melinda.
Oh, wait a minute. Not from John. Not from me. Definitely not from Brian.
Definitely
But
not
Melinda.
for me.
Melinda's got good advice.
Melinda knows things we don't.
Yes.
I can
There's a
give the
lot.
best advice ever, better than both of you right now.
Listen to Melinda.
You need to listen and watch this show because then by doing so, we have people that can come on and give you great advice.
There you go.
The advice is to get good advice.
Yeah.
Well, we learn a lot from our listeners every week, too.
Yeah, a lot of fun stuff. Because everybody being from different areas, they give us a little bit of tidbits of information.
We get
right?
Florida, Pennsylvania, Texas. We get a lot of people with different climates this time of the year.
Yep.
Idaho?
Idaho especially, yeah.
Kansas City.
Rick represents Idaho. John's daughter represents Idaho.
Dana caught your Seinfeld reference, by the way, but I wanted to let you know that Lenore says that her pomegranates are gorgeous.
Ooh.
Not spectacular, gorgeous.
Do you know that pomegranates that they grow in fields, when we see them come to the grocery store, they're usually about the size of a softball, right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of premium pomegranate growers, and they can grow to the size of your head. They're really large pomegranates.
I don't know about that.
Yeah,
Maybe
I've
if
seen
you
them.
were a Zika baby.
No, I've seen them. So they can grow some large pomegranates. And supposedly they're still very flavorful and delicious as well.
The book Pomegranate Roads, which was written by Gregory Levin, and I'm trying to think, I'm sure if Ed's listening, he would know. He was from one of those stands like Tajikistan or Uzbekistan.
One of those stands?
One of those stands.
Fruit stand, vegetable stand.
And he spent his life collecting pomegranate varieties.
Mm.
And he had well over 100 varieties of pomegranates, and I'm thinking it would be close to 300 if I'm correct. And one of the things he was looking for, one of the reasons I liked the book, is he was searching, and I think he found the rare blue pomegranate.
Blue?
Yeah.
Was it blue inside or blue outside?
I can't remember now, but
Now?
that doesn't pertain to my story anyway. So when the Soviet Union broke up, whoever was running the government there said, and the guy has spent, his entire life making this collection, right? They came over and said, we're going to plow this under and plant vegetables. And so they went through and destroyed his entire collection, the largest collection in the world. But he was able to get a lot of budwood out to, I think it was UC Davis. It might have been UC Riverside, but one of those fruit growing stations. And I know Ed was responsible for producing a lot of those over at Dave Wilson.
You see Ed's comment, his latest comment about
Turkmenistan.
Yes.
I knew. I told you it was a stand.
It was a stand. Thank you, Ed. Appreciate it. See, our listeners are very smart.
Right.
Yeah.
So Ed can verify that generally the intent of my story was correct. Maybe not the facts.
But you were going in the right direction.
I was
Ed.
going in the right direction. But anyway, so that's great that I hope Ed is producing his video, letting people know
Yes.
about all the varieties available now.
Okay, so we're going to take a break right now. Come back with John's quote of the week. We're going to bring on Melinda Myers, thanking those on Biz Talk Radio, listening to this pre-recorded show. You can always catch us live every week. Facebook Live, go to Garden America Radio Show on Facebook. You don't need an account. You can also go to our YouTube page, like and subscribe. That's also Garden America Radio Show. And our website, gardenamerica.com. A lot of new updated information. The site is gorgeous. Check it out. We're going to take a break, come back with Melinda. John's quote of the week here on Garden America. Tiger Palafox, John Bagnesco, Brian Main on your Saturday. We'd like to thank you for sitting through that break. Those, of course, on Biz Talk Radio, same amount of time. Those on Facebook, a little longer. We're still in the process of getting a hold of Melinda Myers, so we will do our best to catch up with her. In the meantime, we're going to keep this show rolling, John. And this is where, if you're a good person who can ad-lib around anything, when things kind of go off the beaten track in a radio or TV show, we step in and just take it in whatever direction we want to. So this is when I toss it to you.
I'm still trying to recover from you explaining the difference between the Facebook show and the radio show. Whenever you do that, it's like watching a movie with time travel for me. I don't know where I am. It's hard to follow.
Well, we have so many ways to listen to us. You can watch us live on Facebook. You can also watch the pre-recorded shows on Facebook. You can also go to YouTube and watch the show. In fact, immediately after this show, it's posted. You can you can listen to us digitally. You can listen to our streams. You can listen to our podcasts.
You go back to the old shows and always edit out the inappropriate things that I've said. which I appreciate.
You know what, though? Those were our most popular shows.
But you put them all together in one podcast.
What
right?
was that John said again? I don't know. He's in the process of speaking with the
No,
FCC.
he didn't say that, did he?
He really
Hey,
said
I have speaking of saying things, I have something that May Sarton said.
Yes, it's the
And-
quote of the week.
Yeah, and she was a poet and writer around the end of the Victorian era. And she said, "Help us to be ever faithful gardeners of the Spirit, who know that without darkness nothing comes to birth, and without light nothing flowers, except mushrooms."
Yeah,
But
Yeah,
that's
mushrooms.
not really a flower; it's more of a growth.
but it would be considered a flower.
It's
so you think
It's fungus.
there's not one flower that grows in darkness? One
Correct.
flower.
Correct.
Every flower has to have light.
Have you ever looked at the dark side of the moon? There's not a single flower there.
On the back of Pink Floyd's album,
Yeah.
Dark Side of the Moon, there was a flower. So you're saying that every flower needs to be photosynthesized or it won't grow?
Not the flower, the
But
plant.
The plant, I mean, the plant.
Right. You know, Tiger,
Check up on that this week, Tiger, will you?
I'll do my research.
when you were over, you were looking at that Okina podocarpus that
Yep.
I had, which was a variegated podocarpus. And we didn't talk about it, but did you notice there was like one branch totally white?
Yes.
And that could not grow on its own. It has to be attached to a plant that's able to photosynthesize. So occasionally you'll get some albino shoots of a plant, which is an extreme form of variegation, but there's no chlorophyll at all. So if you tried to grow that plant on its own, it would just die.
Yeah, the rest of the plant supports it.
Right.
You know, this might be a good time for people watching us on Facebook Live to give us a question, post a question, comment, and we will answer that because we can go in any direction right now.
Yeah.
What's on your mind?
By the way, our buddy Ed said that I thought I remembered that the pomegranates were at UC Davis, and he said yes, they're at the germplasm repository, which Tiger's very familiar with, at Wolfskill at UC Davis.
Exactly.
I think you want to hire Ed as your manager, your publicist, so that, you know, he says, okay, John, today you're going to say this and this.
You know, if you ever want to
Okay.
not be bored, all you have to do is be somewhere with Ed Livo. He has so much knowledge. He's so enthusiastic about everything that he does. He's the kind of person that maybe if you had to live with him, you'd be really disappointed because you have such a high value of him, you know, a high image of him, that you might be disappointed that he's not that way all the time. But I've never, in I don't know how long I've known Ed, maybe 30, 40 years, never seen him any different.
So if you're going to be disappointed living with Ed, so if I'm writing an article, that's all I heard. And I'm putting that in my article, which is really twisting what you just said. Living with Ed is a disappointment.
Well, those are,
That's the sound bite you took
that's
from that?
That's the soundbite. And that's how things get twisted, you know?
if you want to put something on the internet, if you're a news site on the internet, that's exactly what you would do
That's
with
exactly,
the headline.
yeah. John Bagnasco.
The
Living with
headline
Ed.
can be exactly the opposite of what the article's about even.
So I think what you're saying is he's not always as enthusiastic. He's not 24 hours a day. He's not enthusiastic.
No, I wasn't saying that. I was saying I've never known him to not be enthusiastic. So I said maybe you would be disappointed if you had to live with him, and you'd be surprised that he's not.
I'm looking at the screen because I'm waiting to see Ed comment.
I think this is where Ed says, you know, I've just got to go
we're done.
work with my pomegranates.
Yeah, I'm taking my pomegranates and I'm going.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, if you want to chime in, questions, comments here, we're still in the process of trying to get a hold of Melinda.
Yep.
And
Hey-
but whatever happens, we're going to be here.
Prior to the show, Tiger was talking about pruning roses going into winter. Mm-hmm. And so a tip on that is don't.
We don't prune in the wintertime.
Right. The roses, and a matter of fact, I would let during the year, you usually cut back the rose hips so the flowers keep growing. Mm-hmm. Well, we don't get, especially in Southern California, we don't get cold enough usually for the roses to go completely dormant. So if you just let the hips form on the roses, it's kind of telling the rose, my job's done. I can go into a resting period. And the hips will kind of sit there and ripen over the winter. And then after Christmas, you can go ahead and prune them.
So January would be okay?
Yeah.
Getting that weird message on the screen that the
You are?
video's freeze. But we're good. It's just this message comes across like your video's been interrupted.
That's the Chiron.
Oh, John's got the answer right there. See, it's just for a fraction of a second. I think we're good. Trust me. If see what Ed put on there.
I'm a gardener. I chill on my downtime.
That was Ed. Chill is, and chill for Ed is probably relative too. But that's a great thing about gardening is that it kind of restores your spirit.
Well,
You know,
especially when you're successful.
Even if you're not successful.
We've all had those, right?
I mean, you can just pulling weeds is restful.
Really?
Yeah. I would rather pull weeds than golf, I'll tell you that.
Well, there's your bumper sticker. Why don't you put that or get a shirt? I'd rather pull weeds than golf. But just think, wait a second.
The times I have golfed, I've always thought to myself, I could be pulling weeds and enjoying myself
Why
so
not
much more.
golf and then pull the occasional weed between holes?
While you're golfing?
While you're golfing. Hey, there's a weed. John, pull it.
Or as you would probably do is just get a golf club and start whacking at the weeds, right?
Why not? Absolutely.
My son is a
doing
great
his
golfer.
part. Doing his
Jesse's
part, right.
won a few tournaments lately.
On what? Pulling weeds?
No, golfing.
Got a tournament pulling weeds. How fast can you pull weeds? How many can you pull in a minute?
Hey, Rick from
Rick says good morning. So does
right from
Jimmy
Star, Idaho, and I was wondering. I think they've had some freezes up there. I kind of checked the weather because my daughter lives in Meridian, and I think they've had a couple nights where they've had a hard freeze.
Sure.
I'm not sure, but
So
it's
you had
getting
Jimmy,
getting
too.
close.
Jimmy just,
Like the kind of
chimed
freeze
in.
we get once a year, they get going into their winter.
Right.
Kind of a freeze.
Before it gets cold.
Yeah, before it actually gets
You remember
cold.
years ago when we had the product freeze proof?
Yeah.
And then it
Yeah,
became something
frostproof.
else.
Frostproof, right?
And I wanted
It was freeze proof.
so much to use it, and I did.
Never-
It's like,
just-
I didn't need this.
Yeah.
It got down to 45. I don't need freeze proof.
That's
But
like
the
when-
one thing that freeze proof did is you could spray your tomatoes and it would protect them from a freeze and protect the fruit from freezing. And it was a really cold winter, and I think it got down to 28, and I sprayed my tomatoes with it, and they made it through just fine.
We're going to take a break. I waited till he was done. I didn't
Perfect.
interrupt him.
Thank
Taking
you.
a break here, Biz Talk Radio, Facebook Live. Questions, comments, we are wide open this morning. So whatever's on your mind as we continue. Hello to Ed. Hello to Jimmy. Hello to the rest of you. We'll try to pick a few names out and give you a shout out here on Garden America. Stay with us. It is Garden America. As you can tell, we've been having just a fantastic time this morning here as we play around on the radio and Facebook Live, streaming, digital. Go to our website, go to our YouTube channel. Many ways to hear us, see us, and catch up on all the great gardening information. Speaking of catching up, that's exactly what we're going to do now, Tiger, with our very, very good friend.
Hey, good morning, Melinda. How are you doing?
Good morning. Great. And it sounds like you guys are having way too much fun, which is the way it should be.
Yes, we are. Well, thank you very much for joining us this morning. And, we are having fun because right now we're getting into the time of year here in Southern California when it's time to actually go back to work in the garden. Fall here is a wonderful time of year to, plant, to, vegetables, trees, shrubs, all that kind of stuff. So, it's the start of it. I was talking with Brian on the way in this morning, and, it was hot this past weekend. John, what did you say? It got up into the mid 90s?
92, 93.
Yeah, but this morning I'm actually wearing a sweater. It's a sweater. I'm wearing shorts, but I have a sweater on too.
That is so California.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's going to warm up into the mid 70s or something, but still, it's chilly for San Diego. But Melinda, before we start talking about fall planting trees and shrubs, I was up at John's house this past week, and if you've been following the show, remember that he's brand new build home. He's got a clean lot. And you moved, how many years ago was it now that you moved? 2, 3?
It's been about 8 years, actually. 7 or 8 years, yeah.
Yeah, and so you got to start over from when you moved in the smaller place and now you're out onto your property. Do you have any words of wisdom for John as he's venturing into a brand new landscape?
Well, he probably doesn't need any of my words of wisdom. But I always tell people that, kind of figure out your views. And since he's building, that's going to be even tougher. But when we moved to our place, we had my significant other, he works out of the home too, and we had to put a little bit of cement for parking. And, we're kind of getting the lay of the land. I thought, I'm not putting in any gardens, that I'm going to end up putting something on top of them. And I waited a year, and that was probably the best thing that happened. Because the views that I thought I'd want to keep, I wanted to hide. I kind of got a feel for where the noises were coming, the views to keep, the views to hide, where it made sense, how we entered and exited our house, which sounds crazy, but it was kind of a chance to get a lay of the land, see how water drained, see where the winds, were coming in. And it really, that waiting a year, I did some straw bale gardening. Of course, you can't not garden. But I did some annuals and some beds and the few existing gardens. But really took that year to kind of get a handle on how we wanted to use the property. I have a huge vegetable garden fenced in because we do videotaping and photography and a lot of wildlife. And it's in the front, but it's farm area, so nobody cares. And over the 8 years, I've planted shrubs. You can hardly see that. So it looks more like a decorative garden. And inside is this fenced area. So I know it's hard, John, because it was killing me to see all this property and not be able to, go, I gotta wait. I don't want to redo anything. I'm too old and too tired to do that.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah.
And everything you brought up are points that I've been considering. We have views, right? So when we plant, we don't want to be blocking those views. And there's other things we do want to screen from view. As you pull into our driveway and you look over the top of the house, you see a telephone pole.
Okay.
And so in the back of the house, I planted a cashmere cypress, which I think will grow up, and soon that'll be peeking up over the top of the house. So sometimes there's something you want to cover, and then other areas where you want to make sure they're open so you can see.
Yeah, and I think that is, and then views from inside the house looking out, too, because that's often one of those things we overlook. If you're doing dishes, what are you looking at? I have a hummingbird feeder and a weeping lilac right outside of my kitchen window. So when I'm, doing dishes or working around the sink, that's my view. I've got the hummingbirds coming to visit in the summer and the snow-covered lilac in the winter. But, think about that. Do you sit in your living room and look out? We have a nice view up a hill, and I put a couple of gardens strategically placed and use some really bright colors on the ones far away so that it pulls them closer. So even though it's a far distance, the orange and purples in that garden really jump out, and so it really brings that in and catches our attention. And so trying to find ways to create intimacy, which, as a small space gardener, I never thought I would miss that, but having more space, how do you make that large space intimate, but yet enjoy the space and the views? And so that's been one of my challenges, that, trying to find that nice balance. So we still enjoy the views, but create those small spaces to feel very cozy when we're outside as well.
I don't know if you have any experience with this, because in 55 years of gardening, I don't have any experience with it, but I have a big a great view over a canyon.
Yeah, valley.
A valley from my back window. And where our garden is going to be, we can actually walk out the back and look down. And I've been toying with the idea of putting in a knot garden. And I've never done it. I don't know if it would be too much upkeep. Maybe some of our listeners might have some advice for me, but I wonder if you have any experience with, I thought certainly someone who knows about hugelkultur might know about a knot garden.
And John, for our lay listeners, not spelled how? How do you spell that?
Knot.
Just like we thought.
Right.
Like tying in a knot.
Right.
And I've viewed them. Minnesota Landscape Arboretum has one. One of the Villa Terrace, a very old kind of Renaissance kind of building, part of our art museum. They have a knot garden, very formal. I'm such an informal person that, working with piles of soil and branches and leaves, hugelkulturing is more my style. I think the one thing, but, you're a good gardener and just the attention you'll need to give it. And you have so many more choices. I mean, here in the Midwest, we usually do, boxwoods and shear them out of recognition,
right.
Into the little knot where you've got some other herbs and wonderful things you could use that probably wouldn't require as much maintenance, but still some maintenance. So
that's what I was thinking of.
You're right.
Yeah, doing an herb knot garden. Everybody wants to have an herb garden, but you don't really use that many herbs.
Right.
So and plus, I was thinking of incorporating it into the rose garden, which can have some formal aspects to it as well as some informal. And then just looking from the top, looking down. I mean, knot gardens to me have never been that exciting unless you had a good vantage point.
And that's a great idea. And when you mention that, I think it's our Rotary garden that did exactly what you said, that had roses in amongst their sheared hedges, creating a somewhat of a knot garden. And that would give you that color and a boundary. That's a great idea.
Well, thank you. I'm going to
Look at
mark down that I had one great idea this week.
Yeah. Well,
Now,
then-
Brian wants me to build a maze because he just wants
Yes.
to come up and play.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's got to be a
It'd be
prize
more
at the end.
fun for
Yeah.
him, maybe not you.
Right.
No,
So that's your
Well,
second
you'll
good
have to
idea.
you'll have to post pictures so we can watch the process.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
have-
that is
Right.
part of the plan, is to
Right.
try to document John's success and failures. I'm more excited of documenting his failures, but
So
Yeah.
those pictures should be taken
You
soon.
learn more from those. We
Right.
all will learn more from those.
Right.
I'm not sure John will appreciate it.
yeah.
Learning more from his challenges.
The
But
thing
yeah.
is that people appreciate shorter videos, and if we're doing the failures, they're
Right.
just going to be too long.
We can break them up, John.
Oh, okay.
We can do one a
such
week.
good friends you have, John.
So Melinda, you wrote a wonderful article on planting fall shrubs and trees. And definitely one of the things that was mentioned in the article was John mentioned his power line pole, and one of the things you mentioned in your article was being aware of where power lines on your property as well, right?
Oh, you bet. Two things. One, underground. So any underground utilities, you want to call 811, which is the national hotline, and they'll send someone out, all the utility companies, to mark the underground utilities. And it's really overlooked by many people. And a couple things to keep in mind is, one, it's dangerous if you hit a line. It's inconvenient. Your family and neighbors will not appreciate if you knock out the cable. And you also have to pay for the damage. And my feeling is I want to spend that money on plants, not on fixing, utilities. So there's a lot of personal reasons besides safety that you want to do it. And then looking overhead, if you have any overhead utilities, because I'm an arborist. I don't prune big trees, but my friends that do, they don't want to go out and butcher your tree so that the utility
Melinda,
line.
I'm so sorry I led you into a commercial break. So again, sorry to interrupt, but we'll have to take a quick break. We're talking with Melinda Myers, and we're talking about planting fall trees and shrubs.
Yeah, hang on to those thoughts, Melinda. And again, questions for Melinda Myers, anything going on at all, post them right there on a Facebook page. Biz Talk Radio going to give you some commercials. Facebook Live, we're going to be coming right back after this. Do stay with us on your Saturday weekend or whenever you're listening to us here on Garden America. Right back to the program. We love having Melinda on. We love being here with you. Those on Biz Talk Radio, this would be your final segment for hour number one. If you do carry the second hour, we're back at 8:06 after news. And again, that's on Biz Talk Radio, Business News Network. Tiger?
Yeah, and we're talking with Melinda Meyer, and she was just describing some things you need to consider when planting your fall trees and shrubs. And you brought up a great point regarding 811, and that's the phone number to call. It's the Dig Alert phone number to call, and what they'll come out and do is mark where the utilities are leading up into your property. I don't think they usually go on your property unless it is considered part of what's to be maintained by the utility company. But it's always good to know where your gas, power, water, sewer lines are. And then, Melinda, you brought up a great point, because if you call 811 and you happen to hit a utility, they will come out and they will repair it as part of the service. But if you do not call 811 and you hit a utility, you have to pay the bill for whatever repair it is. And that could be pretty costly.
Yeah, that could be really expensive.
Yeah.
When I was working for the city of Milwaukee, one of my crew leaders called in and said, I have good news and bad news. And I said, well, give me the bad news first. And he goes, well, we hit a fiber optic cable. And I'm like, oh, man, what's the good news? It was not marked correctly.
Yeah.
So we were off the hook. And he goes, everybody's mad at us, but at least we don't have to pay a huge bill or fine as well. So, you definitely want to do it. I know they'll usually mark those big utilities coming into your house, but nothing that you've put in, if you've put in some other things. So you definitely want to call them. And it's free. You need to give them 3 business days notice. It's worth it to do it. And you were mentioning fall planting in your area. Believe it or not, planting in the fall is great, even for those of us in the Midwest and the North. The temperatures are cooler. The soil's still pretty warm. When I was at forestry, we did a review of our tree planting success and found out we had a higher survival rate, believe it or not, with our fall planted trees. And part of the reason, I think, is the weather conditions are better. You know, they had some time to get those plants to get established before winter set in, and then especially those in the southern areas or, like areas in California, you're not going into the hot summer soon after you plant. But I also think the gardener's happy, and if you're comfortable when you're planting, you're going to do a better job as well. I think part of it in spring in some areas for us, it's cold and it's wet, and the soil is wet, and, you're trying to rush to get things done. You've got so much on your to-do list that, if you can spread it out by doing some fall planting. And a lot of nurseries are not only selling some at a discount rate, but a lot are bringing in fresh nursery stock, so that you've got good quality plants that haven't been sitting neglected in the back of a nursery lot, but rather those that have been tended well, and so they're in good shape when you put them in the ground.
Yeah, lots of good stuff. And then, as you mentioned, a lot of nurseries are having kind of clearance sales, getting ready to go into the winter, that you can get a good deal on a substantial sized tree or shrub sometimes. And if you, like you said, it might have been there for a while, but if you plant it correctly, you're going to have great success. So a great opportunity there. Before the break, also, you had mentioned power lines up overhead. And, obviously people want to consider when they're planting a tree about how tall it's going to get. But there's other benefits to planting trees in the fall as well, and things to consider aside the height, right? Because, location in the house. I mean, again, we're talking about John's house, and he wants to put tropicals. And when we were out there, I was like, well, when we were there, it happened to be pretty windy. So I don't think any of the tropicals can take this full exposure. So there's a bit to think about as well, right?
Oh, you bet. So the width, always check the tag, and granted, the size is going to vary, but I think we've all seen those cases where people go, whoa, it's a lot bigger. Wind, I have a lot of wind as well this way, and it seems like it comes from every direction. And so finding those areas where maybe I can create a microclimate, or looking for the plants that are more tolerant, like you were saying, Tiger, things that will take that wind, and maybe eventually you've created that microclimate so those more tender plants are sheltered from those rough conditions. Sunlight, it changes throughout the year and throughout the day, and sometimes we think we have more or less sunlight than's really available. And so it's a good chance to kind of just take some time and look at your landscape throughout the year and then throughout the day. You know, if you work all day away from home, you may think you have a shady area when in reality you've got bright light throughout that expands the options for what you can plant. So you're right, reading that whole environment is important.
You know, I remember in Michigan trying to find those locations for broadleaf evergreens, because at least in Michigan, we were really limited to the broadleaf evergreens we could plant, and they always needed some type of protection from those
You bet. Winter winds, winter sun, the roots are frozen, freezing moisture. Yeah, I know. I'm sure you're missing those days. You're creating your wonderful paradise. I just, on a side note, I have to tell you, we had our first really hard killing frost maybe a week ago, and I was like, oh no, I thought I had another day or two. I'm running out ripping pepper plants out of the ground thinking of you, John. You told me that's what you used to do in Michigan. I'm like, man, here I am. It's dark. I got lights in the garden. Pull out my peppers. Sorry to get us off track, but it just made me think of a conversation we had earlier this year.
And that brings me up to another point. Planting deciduous versus evergreens during the fall. Is there anything people need to consider different for the two?
You know, and especially in harsher climates, you know, when John was mentioning the broadleaf evergreens, even needled evergreens, that first year or two as you get them into the garden, if they're subjected to really strong winds when either the roots are frozen, like in the Midwest and the North, or even during the hot, dry summer, adding water is always easier when the ground isn't frozen. But I like to get the evergreens in, if possible, sooner than now. For my neck of the woods, those a little bit further south and they have some time yet. Just trying to give them a chance to get a little bit of roots established before the ground freezes and a chance to get them well watered. There are some nurseries and landscapers in this part of the country where the soil does freeze, where they'll do some root pruning, prepare the root ball, and actually move their evergreens when that root ball is frozen because it tends to stay together, and then do the transplanting. Obviously, that's something I would say most gardeners should avoid because it's just too hard to move something that large. They have equipment. So if you can get the evergreens in early, for sure water any new plantings. The majority of root growth occurs before plants leaf out, trees leaf out in the spring, and when they drop their leaves in the fall. So really, even though the leaves are falling off, a lot of those evergreens and the deciduous plants are putting down roots.
Yeah. Hey, Melinda, sorry, we're going to have to take another break. Sorry to interrupt again, but we're talking with Melinda Myers.
About putting down roots.
Okay. Hey, we are going to take a break up against the clock. Biz Talk Radio News coming up top of the hour. We're back at 6 minutes after. Facebook Live coming right back. This is Garden Americas. Do stay with us. Yes, back to the show, opening up hour number 2. If you're tuned in on Biz Talk Radio, thank you for tuning in across the country and right in your own backyard. Those on Facebook Live, questions, comments, you have that opportunity as we continue to get pumped full of knowledge with Melinda Myers this morning, Tiger, as we continue.
Yeah,
and some roots, Tiger.
Melinda, we did rudely interrupt Melinda when she was describing
That's the way we always interrupt.
I know, it's so bad. So sorry, Melinda. But you were just talking about planting evergreens versus deciduous, and about how the evergreens, it's still a great time of year to plant, and the deciduous is still a great time of year to plant. So lots of good information. Now, when planting in the fall, aside from worrying about the cold, and you mentioned right now before the break, always water. What about? Is there any concern about overwatering during that time of year as well?
You bet. We might be in the habit, it's been a hot summer. I'm not complaining to you guys, but hotter than normal for us. And so you get in the habit of doing lots more frequent watering. Well, the temperatures are cooler, right? So the soil's not going to dry out as quickly. And the other thing I often find, too, with new plantings is a lot of, if you're buying container trees or shrubs, they're often grown in soilless mixes, and those soilless mixes dry out faster than your surrounding soil if you have heavy clay. So sometimes you also need to adapt how you water. Good soaking near the base of the plant, you may have to do that more often than the surrounding soil, depending on how quickly it dries out. But you're right, you don't want to overdo. Thorough, less frequent, and as needed. And always, digging down in the soil and feeling it, I think is the best way to judge when you need to water. And then mulching the soil, putting a layer of shredded bark or wood chips, pull it away from the trunk of the tree, but it conserves moisture, keeps grass away, lawns up to the trunk of a new planting. They really compete for water and nutrients, and so they'll stunt the growth. Plus, then you get the weed whip out because you don't want to use a hand trimmer, and then you end up injuring your new tree. So make your job easier. Put a mulch bed around that plant, or put it in a planting bed, even better, and create beautiful gardens. And that'll reduce your mowing. You can just do a mow around a large bed versus individual plants. And so mulch and water are good ways to get them started. And, of course, if you're going to fertilize, especially new plantings, you want to use a low-nitrogen, slow-release fertilizer like a Milorganite, or even wait a year, let that tree get established or that shrub get established, and then really kick in the fertilization.
Yeah, lots of great tips there. So, when it comes to shrubs now, because, I think a lot of these things, we talk about trees, they're kind of easy because I think most people do look at planting trees in the fall and winter because it's when you see your bare roots come in,
right.
All of that. Now bushes, shrubs, are they any different or kind of similar needs?
Yeah, very similar. It's a good time to get them in the ground. If you're talking bare root, I have to laugh because this is always a good reminder of the difference in the climate. We typically find those in the spring. So for most of us in the Midwest and the North are looking at balled and burlap, things that have been dug and wrapped in burlap or container. And but shrubs are really the same kind of thing. Great time to plant. Lots availability is usually pretty good. One of the other things is fall color can be such a great attribute in the landscape, and there can be some variability even within the same species or variety, so you get a chance to see if that fall color is going to be as good as the tag says, too. So that's one positive way of looking at, planting them in the fall. So excellent time to get those shrubs in the ground, and read the tag, too, because you want to give them space to grow. I like to put perennials or annuals between my shrubs, so that I space my shrubs out properly, or at least try. And then you've got those voids, right, if you've got small plants. So putting an annual in there or a perennial, as your shrub grows, you need fewer annuals, or you could move that perennial easier. And then when your shrub reaches full size, you're not pruning it to keep it the size under control, but you can really enjoy the full beauty of that plant.
Yeah, very good point, because people will put in a landscape and they'll space it accordingly, and then they look, there's not enough. I need 5 more of these bushes, and they spaced them accordingly, but then they go and put in 5 more, and 2 years later they're pulling out 5 other plants. So good point on putting some things in between there. And then the other thing I do want to mention, you said read the tag, and if you're shopping at a local garden center, I definitely think that you're going to have good success with reading the tag. When you shop at a box store, you might want to have a good local resource for your trees and shrubs. I mean, here in California, we have the Sunset Western Garden Book, which is very
Right,
specific,
excellent.
regional about what the plant's going to do, how it's going to grow.
Right, we have 24 planting zones compared to
Oh, I know.
11
Yeah.
nationwide, right?
Because I mean those tags for box stores, I mean they could be getting those plants from anywhere, and I've seen tags that describe hydrangeas in full sun, and other plants that obviously shouldn't be in the space that it says on the tag. So getting good local information is important for people.
You bet. And sometimes those tags are shrub.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah,
okay, could I get a little more detail? And
Yeah.
you're right. Your local gardens and supporting your local garden center is a great idea. So definitely. And then looking for it. I do own a Sunset Western Garden Guidebook, and I'm like so grateful I don't have 24 zones to deal with in
Yeah.
the Midwest.
And that's just in one backyard.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, lots of fun stuff. So, Melinda, the last time we talked, you did a few events. How are things going?
It's been a lot of fun. It's been so nice to see people in person. I think things are kind of closing down. I did my last webinar on Wednesday, but they're all available to watch on my website, melindamyers.com. And it's just been fun to get back in person. I did a home remodeling show, and we had good crowds, great questions. I think we're all just anxious to be together. I was in your neck of the woods virtually. It did a small space garden design, not planting because I know my limitations. Threw in a few small space California gardens I've been lucky to visit. But it's been so nice to be in person. I don't know about you guys, but virtual is great. It's like being on the radio. You stay somewhat connected, but boy, when you can have a conversation, you can learn so much more. And I just get such great ideas from gardeners when I meet with them in person.
Had we known you were here virtually, we would have invited you to a virtual lunch.
Yeah.
We should have. I should have called you or a glass of wine at the end of the day next time.
All right.
No, definitely being in person, you learn a lot more. And I'm sure the one thing you probably have being in person recently for your events, I'm sure gardeners being held up and maybe not meeting. Are they just sharing away with you, Melinda? Because, that's the other thing gardeners love to do is just share, so.
You bet. We always end up talking, as you can tell. The reason you have to interrupt me is I never stop talking, so it's not your fault. And then you put me with a group of gardeners, and you're right. It's, here's what's been happening, and here's what I'm doing in my garden. And I think one of the really exciting things is I'm seeing friends that, people who acquaintances through the gardening world that are coming back and some regulars, but also a lot of new gardeners, a lot of new people who found the joy of gardening. And I think we were all worried, right, that they'll find out it's kind of work to garden, but it brings you lots of joy. And I'm finding that a lot of people they found enough joy and have realized we all make mistakes along the way and are willing to keep gardening. So that's, to me, also very exciting. And then the experienced, not old gardeners, the seasoned gardeners share with the new gardeners. And it's just such a good community that we get to work with. Gardeners are cool people. You have to be optimistic or you'd never do it 2 years in a row, right?
Yeah, for sure. And if you, didn't succeed, it'd be so hard to try again. So you'd have to be optimistic for sure. Yeah, well, Melinda, thank you very much for joining us this weekend. Happy Halloween. Hope you guys have a good Sunday Halloween. I feel sorry for all the teachers out there that are teaching on Monday morning, dealing with all these kids.
All the sugared up children.
Yeah, they got 3 hours of sleep. So, I'm glad I'm not in that boat. But, have a great weekend, and thank you very much, and we'll talk again soon.
Sounds great. Thank you. You guys too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Melinda. Nicely done, Tiger.
Every once in a while I hit one, right? On time, right?
So that said, let's see. Checking the old time here. It is just about break time. So when we come back, it's wide open. Whatever you want to discuss here on Garden America, questions, comments there on Facebook Live, and those on Biz Talk Radio. Remind you can always go to our Facebook page every week if you want to hear us live. 11 o'clock back east, that's when we kick things off at 8 o'clock here on the West Coast. So that said, going to take a break after these messages on Biz Talk Radio. Stay with us. We are back from the break, and again, we want to thank those on Biz Talk Radio listening to this pre-recorded program. Go to Garden America radio show on both Facebook and our YouTube channel and watch all the previous shows. And maybe fast forward to a part of the show you missed or want to watch the whole thing over again. We do invite you to like and subscribe so we can build our audience here on Garden America. You don't need your headphones, John, unless you want to. Unless you like listening to my voice in your ears. More intimate. You like that?
You make some good points. I think I'll just take it off.
No, you can put them on. I'm just saying we don't need them. And only time we need them is when there's a phone call or, but that's totally up to you. It's a good look. I will say that. It's a good look
very professional
when he has the headphones on. So any questions? Let's see, Rick. Ba-boom, ba-boom. Okay,
Rick says that he likes to plant wildflower seeds in the fall so that when spring comes, they sprout.
I have California poppies already sprouting right now.
You and your poppies the last couple of years.
Well, they're starting to just seed themselves.
Right.
They're just
But
sprouting
those
all
are the
over
ones
right
that
now.
your son took a couple of years ago and just threw them all over the yard, right?
Correct. Yep. No, he didn't throw them all over the yard. Remember, I found
They were all in one
pile.
spot.
I found like a pile of them just sitting there. From that pile, now they are starting to spread all over the yard.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think more so this October because we've had the rains, and a lot of things are germinating, weeds especially.
Well, yeah, for sure. Along with those poppies are.
But yeah, I've had poppies. I've had Phacelia coming up and blooming, and the gazanias for some reason are looking
Gazania,
really
I haven't
good
heard that in
now.
a long time.
The rain helps out with those a lot because they like shrivel up and almost
Right.
hibernate in the wintertime, and then as minute they get a little drop of water, they
In the
open
summer,
up
you mean
and-
shrivel up in the summer?
what did I say?
You said wintertime, but
Yeah,
you meant summer.
I keep looking at this little tiger.
Yep.
So many buds on it. I just love that one dies, another one's right there, and it's just
I don't see one dead one on there, but
a lot of new ones.
Well,
Look at
that
the
was
new ones
why I
coming
brought
out.
it in, because it just went through that heat.
I was going to say, John just brought this in, and as he mentioned, he got blistering heat for 3-4 days, and this plant looks fantastic.
I thought about not bringing it in because you can't get it anywhere. But I brought
Which
it
makes
in.
it all the more special.
Well, it's special, like I mentioned. Anything with tiger is special to me.
I think it's a good idea every week that you bring something in to decorate the studio.
Yeah.
It looks good.
But the reason I brought it in was besides to show off, which I always like to do.
Braggart.
The miniature roses are like a dying type of rose. You just don't see them anymore. You can't find them.
Are we going through a phase? They'll come back again?
Maybe, but since miniature roses are smaller and not as tough maybe as some of the shrub roses,
I love them.
they disappear. And a good example is the first miniatures came out in the mid-1800s.
Wow.
And they were called Lawrenceanas. And they virtually disappeared. Like every miniature rose by as the 1900s started, everyone was gone. There were no miniature roses.
Because everybody focused on getting a bigger bloom.
Bigger flowers, bigger plants. And then the current availability of miniature roses came from a rose that was found in a flower box in Switzerland, I believe, Rosa Rouletti. And now and then there were a lot of miniature rose nurseries and mail order miniature roses. There was Pixie Treasures in San Diego. There was what was the one in Chula Vista? Tiny Petals Nursery.
Now, miniatures are a different, what would it be, species, genus?
Class. Different
class.
class of roses.
Class of
So
rose.
would it be kind of like the other side of, when you're growing a rose for a bigger bloom, a bigger plant, you kind of pick the bigger of what you get, right, to get that larger size?
And then
So
keep
when
propagating that?
Correct. Is
Well,
miniature
most-
the reverse of that? You keep getting the smaller blooms, the smaller plants?
Right. They had different origins.
Okay.
For instance, I think I mentioned this last week, but there's a rose called Lady Mary Fitzwilliam, which was a hybrid tea that came out in the early 1900s. And it has over 18,000 descendants.
Yeah, you did mention that one. Yeah.
So almost every rose grown today has Lady Mary
Yeah.
Fitzwilliam in the background, but probably not the miniatures because they'll have Rosa Rouletti in the background.
Okay.
So different class of roses. But anyway, I was going to say that almost all the miniature rose nurseries are out of business.
Yeah.
So you can get the florist type minis
Right,
that they
that you
sell in
buy at the-
supermarkets that aren't named.
Exactly.
But a lot of the regular minis are just hard to find.
Couple of questions, John, on Facebook. I'm going to get started with.
Okay, well, I was going to tell people, though, that if you go to the ccrsauction.com, you can find some miniatures that are going to be available shortly. So some really good ones. All right, now Spencer doesn't say where he is, but he wants to know the best shrubs for some vivid fall color. He does need them to be hot summer tolerant. So depends on what you mean by color, whether you mean leaves or just color, because you get color from things like berries.
Yeah.
So pyracantha, right, is heat tolerant
Yeah.
and going to give you either orange or red berries in the fall.
Yeah. And
So
if you
that's
got,
a lot of good color.
depending on where you're at and you have some shade, camellias, because they bloom in the fall and winter.
The sasanquas, especially for fall,
Right.
sasanqua camellias will start blooming relatively soon,
Right.
right?
Yeah. I was going to say, we're getting some in now. So-
Yeah. With buds or open flowers?
With buds and some flowers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
So-
should all have buds, but
Yeah.
flowers, if they don't have now, they'll open quickly.
Yeah.
There's the famous one called Yuletide, which comes out around Christmas,
Christmas.
because it's in
Beautiful
full
red.
bloom. Right.
Yeah.
And then if you're in a cold area, the burning bush, Euonymus alata, or elatus, Euonymus elatus compacta. It's called the burning bush because the leaves turn a brilliant flaming red for the fall.
I always think of Moses when you say that.
Yeah.
And I mean, this we talked about this plant earlier in the show with Ed, the pomegranate, and there are ornamental pomegranates as well,
Right.
and they create beautiful yellow, red fall color as well. Those shrubs do, so that's a cool one.
Yeah, that's a good point because they're deciduous.
Yeah,
So a lot of the deciduous shrubs are going to have good fall color.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, maybe more specific if you're looking for an evergreen or deciduous or flower or foliage, because this time of year when you say fall color, I'm imagining the picture of all those trees, kind of like John's tree pit area where it's
Right.
like you have all these different things happening. You got green, the yellow, red. That's my impression of fall color when
Yeah.
we talk about
Yeah.
that.
Hey,
But
I
Spencer
know we
was
gotta-
asking about shrubs.
Yeah, let's take a break before we get to the next question, just so we don't have to cut you off, John. So stay
Okay.
with us. Again, quick break on Facebook Live, Biz Talk Radio, and we're going to get back to your questions on Facebook Live, as I mentioned. With Tiger Palafox, John Bagnesco, I'm Brian Main. Do stay with us. Another segment, another break coming up. We are Garden America. On Facebook Live, back just like that. Thank you for tuning in to Biz Talk Radio and supporting our many sponsors here on Garden America. Okay, John, I think we're done with Spencer, and next up is Carla.
Carla says she's planting a vegetable garden. She's got seedlings ready to put out, Tiger. But she said a few weeks ago we helped her diagnose that her bed had nematodes.
Yeah.
And she wants to, so she's not going to plant root crops there, but is it okay for cauliflower, spinach, chard, Brussels sprouts? I think that root knot nematodes can affect almost anything.
Yeah, I was going to say, with those, they're going to affect the plants for sure. You don't get the same damage when it comes to like when you're talking about your other tomatoes
Right.
and plants as on a cauliflower, but you are going to get a weakened plant, smaller plant, because the root system will be being attacked by those nematodes.
Right. The other thing to remember is that quick growing crops like lettuces and spinach grow so fast that the nematodes don't have
They can't keep up.
they don't have as much a chance to affect the growth as they would on a tomato
Right.
that's there for an entire season. But if you go, you can even order it direct from John and Bob's online, but if you get some Biosol, if any of your local ag supplies have large bags of Biosol, that's the number one way to eliminate the nematodes permanently. So if you can put some of that in at planting time, it'll be a great organic fertilizer and help deter the nematodes.
David is next, I believe.
Fall planting perennials, Tiger.
Perennials, fall planting.
Yep. That's what I asked you.
Yeah, and that's why John asked you.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, man, what is hit? I mean,
Well, mums you can put in now.
cyclamen, mums,
Cyclamen for shade.
yeah,
Hemerocallis, daylilies.
daylilies, the evergreen ones. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Salvias. There's a lot of salvias, and they do well in the fall this time of year, depending on where you're at. So, salvia is a good plant. What else? Perennials, fall planting.
Some things you don't see as often as you do. I saw a lot of them when we were in England, but the candy tuft was a good fall perennial.
Yeah. Good white, right?
And then if you're in cold climates, it'd be great to get peonies in, but David's in California, so not too good for peonies.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, I'm trying to think of what else. I mean, there is a lot, and I'm
A
just
lot
trying to
of
think
bulbs
narrow.
become perennials like lilies. This is a great time to put lilies in the ground.
Yeah. I mean, I'll think
Just
of a
about
few other
anything
more.
they're selling in a local garden center.
Yeah,
Now would be a good time to put in.
and I know that this isn't perennial flowers, but this is the time of year when you do see a lot of grasses going in, because fall also, it's the time when you see the different grasses as well. So that's a good time of year to put in the different, festucas or carex, dianella, different grasses like those.
We've got a Seinfeld question for
For
Kathy.
I thought of that exactly, John.
Yeah, what's the deal with beneficial nematodes?
What is the deal?
Yeah, grubs and what else? There's something else that they help with.
Yeah.
Grubs
People
and
make
something else.
mistakes, and I think even some garden centers I've heard make the mistake thinking that beneficial nematodes will kill nematodes, and they don't.
Right.
There just happen to be nematodes that are
Right.
good, and like Tiger says, they'll attack grubs that are in the soil.
I'm going to jump ahead here because we have people prior to this, but Spencer has a comment. It's strange because for so long I believed that you could only plant in spring. It wasn't until a few months ago that I learned so many things could be planted in the fall. It's okay. I'm young. I'll keep learning. That's great. I love that. It's a great comment.
Really, I immediately became jealous.
Because he's so young?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Bring the youth to our show, Spencer. But yes, keep listening, keep watching, keep learning. That's a good comment.
So,
Rick says
real
he's
quick.
got a lot of lilies in pots and wants to know if they should go in the ground now. In Idaho, yes, you can put them in the ground now. And they'll go dormant. They'll probably freeze back during the winter and then come back up. But it would be great if they need to build the bulb back up for next year. And the sooner you can get them in the ground, the better.
And then Lance had a comment, which is nice. Lance Walheim, good friend of ours.
Real quick, before we leave the nematode, I wanted to get this list off. So
Okay.
they have nematodes for fungus gnat and root knot, fleas, ants, cockroaches, fire ants, and then grubs. So there are a lot of variety of nematodes that can do a variety of pests.
Oh, gee,
in the
now you're
garden.
making it so confusing. You can't see the nematodes to begin with, and now you've got to have different types of things you can't see. in order to-
you're supposed to be able to kill with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll post this link right now if you're interested in nematodes.
You know what's funny is that Lance, our buddy Lance Walheim, says that he loves asters, ornamental grasses, and false sedum. False sedum will grow well in Southern California, but it's not something that we see as much as we do in colder areas of the country or the state. But false sedums are a great succulent.
And Tanya, I say that correctly this time.
Tanya, but let me finish, Brian.
Okay, yeah, you go, John.
In the newsletter, I put a link to some books about tropical fruits. And one of the books I put a link to was Lance's book on citrus. And do you remember the old HP books, Tiger, the soft cover books? And Lance wrote one, the citrus
The
varieties.
dummies for dummies.
No. They were like ortho books,
Oh.
but they were HP books.
Got it.
Anyway, I said, I'll put a link to Lance's book on citrus. It's one of the best out there. So I went to Amazon. There was one for sale. It was $65. And I think when they came out, they were $9.95.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just countertop books.
Gone up
Yeah.
in value.
Yeah. But the information is still good, and that's definitely worth that much money. Okay, now, what were you telling me, Brian?
Where was I in our scope of questions and comments here?
I don't know. You interrupted me for something, and I forget what it was. Anyway, John posts online. He says,
Tanya. I'm sorry. Back to Tanya, John. That was it.
oh, okay, I didn't see.
I found lots of grubs in one of my planting areas with status: iceberg roses, crepe myrtles, etc. If I treat for grubs, will it hurt the bees and hummingbirds that come to their flowers?
Good question.
Yeah, great question.
The answer
And
is no.
Nope.
not,
Depends on
because-
what you use.
Yeah, I
but
mean,
probably not.
It depends on what you use, because if you use, as we're talking about, the nematodes, definitely not. No problem at all. They're staying in the soil. They're not
Right.
affecting the plants. Now,
Oh,
the
you-
grub killer products that they sell for, like a chemical killing grub, I know that you can't use those in edible gardens, meaning, you wouldn't use it where you have your tomatoes or your veggies and your citrus. I don't necessarily know if it goes into the flower for the bee or the hummingbird or anything.
Right. Most of the soil insecticides are only going to affect what's in the soil. They're not systemic and they're not taken up.
Yeah.
So there's some synthetic organics out there like deltamethrin, which a lot of the taro products have.
And that just stays in the ground.
Right. I think those are relatively safe. I wouldn't worry about using any of those.
Rick says he has lots of lilies in pots. Should they go into the ground now? He's in Idaho.
The daylilies.
No, he's talking about lilies, and we just talked about it. If you go back,
Go rewind
in
the show, Brian.
rewind the show,
Yeah.
and listen to, you'll hear our conversation about that.
Talking to me or him?
You.
I'm just passing along what he just said.
I know, but we just finished talking about that like 2 minutes ago.
No, this. How could you 2 minutes ago? He just posted it.
Because we can.
Because you knew what he was going to ask.
Because we can see the future, Brian.
Yes, and he didn't just post. It might be showing. That's weird. It could be showing
Yeah,
up.
I've got a delay on here.
Yeah.
I got it on my page.
Well, too. We need that delay often.
Okay, so
Are your and Jim asked, are your old newsletters archived? And I'm trying to think. Are they becoming archived?
well,
Because
okay. If you go to old Facebook pages, there's links on there to the
to
newsletter.
the newsletters.
So
And
if you
then-
scroll down,
And then we are beginning to archive our articles on our website. So that is
Right.
something.
Right.
So I would say
Our old newsletters used to be archived,
Right.
but I don't think
With the-
they are on the new website.
with the new website, it is being developed, Jim. So, I would say yes, they are, but there's a few of them currently.
The main reason they're not archived is because they can be used as evidence. It's always safer to eliminate them.
go read about the bananas in the newsletter.
Let's see. Lance says,
Oh, wait a second. Are your old newsletters archived? We have to get to that.
Oh, you're really messing with
look
John
at
now.
this. We got a lot of newsletter questions now. How do
You're
you get
really
the
messing
newsletter?
with John now.
okay, Cindy.
Yes.
Here's a problem, and Tiger's going to look into it.
Yeah.
Cindy used to get our newsletter, and then she unsubscribed.
Mm-hmm.
If you unsubscribe from the newsletter,
Constant contact will not let us.
We got to take a quick break here. We're going to come back and way over time.
okay.
So, and then we have one more segment coming up. Stay with
Okay.
us. Welcome back. This is our final segment here on Facebook Live, Garden America, and Biz Talk Radio. Let's jump right into it and talk about the newsletter. She unsubscribed to Cindy at one time, and that means what as of right now?
I went to try to add her back in, and Constant Contact said that in September, Cindy unsubscribed. So they will not let us put her back in.
which I think is silly.
Well, you do, but the reason that they do it is they don't want junk emails going out.
Yeah, they're trying to make sure people don't get
Right. So if somebody is unsubscribed, in their mind, they don't care why.
But we should be able to circumvent that if we know that it's legitimate.
Well,
that's why I will take a look.
Jen Tiger's going to look
I
into
will
that.
take a look and
There-
see what
yeah,
we can
that's
do.
what I was going to say. There is
It's
a
probably going
way.
to be some kind of. We'll have to send you a request and approval, Cindy, from Constant Contact. And
Right.
Once you click that, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
So, yes, our tech support is on that.
Yeah, our team of tech supporters,
Yeah.
which if you call them, you will be put on hold.
Okay, Cindy says she never unsubscribed, and I'm not blaming you, Cindy, but Constant Contact says that someone unsubscribed from your newsletter. So it could have been just inadvertently clicking an unsubscribe
We're going to take
link.
care of it. We'll fix it.
But yeah, we will try to do it.
Cindy, we'll look into it.
All right.
Welcome to the age of technology. Great when it works, a disaster when it doesn't.
You know, and I have people who do unsubscribe every week, 2 or 3. We get many more ad than do unsubscribe. But the number one reason that people unsubscribe, they check, I get too many emails from you.
Really send one
From us?
We send one a week on Friday, and that's what you're signing up for.
Yeah, one a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and you never get more than that.
No.
So
And I get them in both places. I get them here at work, and I get them at home.
And
I'm covered.
you get
So-
them coming and going.
And going.
right.
So I try to keep you gentlemen in the loop on gardening in the news and mainstream news and hot topic news. So there was an article just this week. There's an actor, and he's probably subscribes to our newsletter because of
Alec
what he
Baldwin,
he
right?
does. No, Jamie Dorian. He would be best known as the main actor in that 50 Shades of Grey movie. Brian, you're aware of that one, right?
That movie?
Yeah.
I like the book better.
When he used to go on dates, rather than saying he was a model or actor because that was such like a cliche thing
look
to
at
do,
me, look at me.
Right.
he would say he was a landscaper.
Really?
That was his
Well,
profession.
and he subscribes to our newsletter?
I think he should, right?
Oh,
I mean,
he should, okay.
If he's going to portray himself as a landscaper, he better subscribe so he has some input and some knowledge about what he's
And
supposed to
some
be
substance to what he's talking about.
Right.
Why are so many things coming into my mind that I can't say on the radio?
doing. Yeah. So look at that. People want to be us, Brian.
Now, to be honest, I didn't finish the book. I got up to 39 shades. I haven't read the rest of them yet or experienced that.
Oh,
I've
you're-
mentioned you can just come to my house because my house is 50 Shades of Gray.
Yes,
That's the
Oh,
colors.
that's the color you don't like.
We've got gray everywhere.
So do you think that's kind of a gray area or not?
It's definitely a gray area, but I have to admit,
Does it
it
make
all
you feel gray?
all goes together, and now I like it.
I would have had a lot. Yeah. Do you have any red in your house?
pink.
Because I love red. I would have had red someplace.
Yeah, the only
And he's got red in the painting that Ping gave you.
that came to my mind too. That's the only red thing in the whole
Very
house.
bright red.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that wasn't a painting; it was
Or
a
some-
paper cut.
Some kind of, yeah. What do they call that? Paper mache?
No, paper cut. I don't know.
All right. Are we caught up? What are we doing?
Some of our favorite ornamental grasses.
Ooh.
I'm not a big grass guy.
Dianella.
I like grass. Dianella, that's not really a grass.
You don't think so?
No.
Why not?
Well, it's
Good. You take the heat from
What would
Tom.
you-
Go ahead.
completely different
watch you two.
family.
But it looks like a grass.
It's not in the grass family.
What kind of grass are we talking about?
Grazing in the grass, Brian.
It's a gas.
What's is it a carex, the corkscrew one? Would that be a grass?
Yeah, you mean like
Is it
carrot?
juncus or
Juncus,
juncus?
right.
It's like
Yeah.
a corkscrew one.
Juncus effusus.
Suffusus?
Effusus.
Effusus?
Juncus
What are you trying?
effusus?
Whoa! Hey, do you have the beep ready there, Brian?
Juncus effusus.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're saying
The
something backwards.
The corkscrew juncus.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
play that correctly and you're going to get corkscrew.
But up in Idaho, where Rick is, miscanthus is one that's commonly used.
Yeah.
And I'd give a recommendation to Rick is John Greenlee's book
Yeah.
on ornamental grasses.
Yeah, lots of great ones. He developed a lot of them.
Yeah. He was Interesting person, but definitely get a copy of Ornamental Grasses. And nice thing about going to Amazon to look for books is you can get used copies, and you usually get them much cheaper than what they were when they first came out.
I definitely recommend, if you're going to get into grasses in your garden, pick varieties that do not reseed, because the ones that do reseed, they can kind of take over sometimes.
They become invasive, but it depends where you are, too.
Right. That's
You know, in a cold climate, an ornamental grass may not be invasive where it would be in a warmer climate. You know, pennisedums, some of the red ones are fine, but green pennisedum is an invasive plant for sure.
Stipa, that's, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Hey, we got about a minute to go here. Let's start wrapping up, talking about maybe next week, what's happening and what's in the future, and so on and so forth. John?
Don't tell me what to do.
Well,
Brian.
this coming week,
right.
next weekend, as a matter of fact, I've got to send our tech guy the information. We're going to have Greg Lowry on. And Greg is the founder of Vintage Gardens up in Sebastopol. And at one time had a collection of over 5,000 roses. So he's going to tell us about maybe a dozen roses that are going to be in the upcoming auction that are favorites of his. And he'll let us know what's going on with the Friends of Vintage Roses.
That was next week, you said?
Yeah.
Next week?
Yeah.
How about that?
And then we have we'll be talking about our upcoming trip. Now we've got the itinerary. I think if you go to gardenamerica.com.
Yes, it's on there.
You can see the
Another
itinerary.
good reason to go to our website, gardenamerica.com. Check out that fabulous trip.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be so much fun.
Once every 10 years.
Not the trip, but the Floriade that
but
we're going to be visiting.
The reason for going,
which
yes.
is an international garden show.
Exactly.
It's only held once every 10 years.
That is it. We are up against the clock. Those on Biz Talk Radio, thank you. Those on Facebook Live, a lot of people hung in for the entire show. We appreciate that. The little John right there. I'm sorry, little Tiger.
Little
Tiger.
John. That's another good
Little
name.
one.
One.
Little
have
John is a callistoman.
Right?
Right?
That's right. It is. Have yourself a great rest of your weekend. Whatever you're doing, have a great one. A safe week, and we'll do it again next week right here on Garden America. Take care. Be safe.